Right. I'll just wait for those ads to finish up. What's up, everyone? Happy hump day! Oh, I'm moving some stuff around because my computer played its usual shuffle the damn Windows shenanigans. Bear with me one sec. Alright, I think that's everything I need. Alright, there we go. Now I can just find out what I did with OBS. There it is. Maddie, son. Notably, no shuffle the Linux shenanigans. Although, in all honesty, if Microsoft keeps their shenanigans up, I might just go to a pure Linux desktop and say to hell with them. Stop. Oh wait, I just realized the camera's not even on. Boop. Wait, hold on. I've got over here. Got the green screen out of alignment. Got a hole in the fabric of reality. There we go. I don't know what you're talking about. Oop. Wait a second. Well, I don't know why the slide in just makes me so irrationally happy. Dude. Steve asked, I'm usually more of a Debian. I like the Debian derivatives. Maybe I need to go give Fedora another try because honestly, I don't know. It's just that's the one I started with, so it's kind of like the lineage I stuck with. Let's see. All right, so you know what we had running last night? We had our range deploying. Let's check out the range deployed out. Of course, we had errors. Let's see what they were. A lot. Let's see, change the specified credentials but are rejected by the server. Oh no. Dude, we've been just working on building out the home lab some more. The big giant home lab, which I'm calling baby bottles. Because everybody always wants to hack big giant evil megacorp. I'm like, no. You're getting it paid to hack a baby bottle company. That's a weird error. I don't know what this one even means here. Internal error, failed to run exec wrapper action async wrapper. Ansible encountered a timeout while waiting for the async task to start. And connected to the name pipe. Interesting. Hey, Euler, what's up, my man? So, but yeah, man, that's been about it. Working on this. I think kind of what we're going to do, though, I'm going to order some new RAM for the server. When that comes in, that'll help out a little bit, because right now, basically, we've got some dead air to fill during the streams. When the lab's deploying or we're testing out something, we got to give it time to cook. Then I want to be able to hop back into the attacker lab and keep tinkering with Mythic. Got DA on your assessment today? Hell yeah. I am trying to work my way into so the test I'm doing for our current client is just basically a network segmentation test. But the client was really cool. I said, hey man, do you mind if I do this over Mythic, since that's what I've been using lately? He said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we have a computer in the DMZ, he puts Mythic on there, and I'm testing out what I can get. I can reach something on the internal. I'm trying to see if I can ride a connection that I know is established into it. Unfortunately, this is a very, very plain install of Mythic, and the agents are completely not obfuscated. They're just really plain Jane Apollo agents, and they're just getting. And for some reason, when I run it in a folder that's excluded from Windows Defender, it runs fine. But if we right-click on that same executable, run as an administrator, so I can have a high-integrity process, Banhammer hits it every damn time. Yeah, I love DA. Makes me feel all warm and tingly. Hey, Franklin, what's up? Yeah, Windows like, you don't deserve high integrity. I know you. I've seen your streams. Let's see. So Squid failed. Oh, okay. Squid failed because we haven't fixed the networking stuff yet. That's fine. Don't care about the errors with Squid because... Actually, hold on. Let's go adjust something real quick in the configuration while I'm looking at this error here. So, for example, we come over and look at Kali as an example. We need to put this line in over on the Squid proxy. Man, trying to configure the Squid proxy is going to be a pain. Mostly because I've never done it. We're going to learn it. We're going to FA it, and then we're going to FO it. Where's Squid? Squid. Yeah, Squiddy. Squid, here we go. Squid is going to need that. Also, you know what else is going to need that? DMZ Web is going to need that. Here we go. Yeah, that's nice. My name is Leon Phelps, the Ludus man, answering all your cyber range queries. If you get that joke, you've got to be old like me. Let's see, what's our next one? All right, Workstation 2 Corp failed, and Corp Workstation 1 failed. Okay, not necessarily big deals. You're fast. There's only two options here. You're either well read in SNL lore, or you're old. Those are the only way you should get that reference. Although what's funny is I think I feel better at 40 than I did at 30. Because at least at 40, I feel like if I sneeze, I'm not going to throw my back out. I was in pretty rough shape at 30. All right, these two, I'm not sure what this has got going on. Let's go check. So for some reason, the Corp workstations had a failure. Let's go look at those configs. Let's see, where? Corp. There we go. Workstation 2. See, it should be... The DC should be 10-20-10. Let's double check that first. So, Corpse, DC. Yeah, it'll be 10x2010. Oh, that's right, because this is the DC, so this gets this configuration here. So then for Workstation 1, DCIP should be 10x2010. Yep. Corp.Baby Bottles Inc. administrator at core password, because we haven't changed any of the passwords. So that should be the default password. What did you drop for a link? What's the inspiration for Baby Bottles Inc? So something I'm not going to do on the stream, but I'm planning it, is there's going to be stuff in the lab. So the lab, let's make it perfectly clear. The lab is meant to be like an Active Directory CTF, kind of. There's going to be expected exploit paths. And if you watch the stream all the way, you're going to see them all and know how to do it. But there's also going to be a little hidden story in the lab. And so I'm working on how I'm going to put the story elements in there. And it's going to be kind of like a Rorschach. This is what I'm going for. The story elements are going to be in there, sprinkled throughout the lab. Because you don't have to hit every machine in the lab to accomplish the objective, which is to get the file server. All right, so for everyone's re-edification. So this is what the lab roughly looks like at a very high level. So you don't have to hit, there's machines in here you don't have to hit. But if you come through and you hit some of these, there's going to be story elements in there that once you get down to the file server and you get the primary objective, it's going to be the thing that kind of makes the Rorschach snap into resolution. So there's going to be a little bit of a, like I said, a game within the game in here. So I'm working on that, and I'm not going to do that part on stream because I don't want to spoil it. But I think it's going to be fun. I think a lot of folks will like it. So I don't get why this... Wait, no, we can try. Yeah, so one should be child domain. This should be child domain 10. Which really, this doesn't need to be child domain join. This really should just be called domain join. In all realness. Let's go look at this real quick. 10/20/10. That's going to be the corp DC. Go check on it. DC. That might be why. This guy doesn't look like it got its configuration. Yeah, that's why those credentials failed. So for some reason, Corp DC did not execute like it was supposed to. That's okay. This was the first run of after we added all the domain, kind of the very basic domain configuration to it. We wanted to let everything run. So what I'm thinking here is, and this is what I was also expecting. This lab is so big and it's going to stress the system out enough during the deployment process. Look this up. I wish this CPU usage could let me have a wider time frame here, because it only goes back an hour. Isn't super helpful because the deployment finished a long time ago. Yeah, our memory usage though is 100 of 128 gigs, so got quite a bit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try another range deploy. And we're going to follow the logs down here, what kind of stuff happens. We'll let this do its thing. Awesome. I wanted to show y'all something too. So over on the Discord, pull up the Discord quick. I need to reorganize this a little bit, but I've started building out this section here for hacking resources. So a couple of times, every time I find an interesting link, I'll go ahead and pop it in here. And so one of these though is I'm making lists of interesting repositories over on GitHub and sorted them into topics. So I've got those listed in here. And when I don't have anything else that's really great, like actually I probably should go include a link to the Maldev Academy over here. And so like if you want to do exploit research, here's a neat article, stuff like that. So this is something I've been kind of working on, is this right here. Ah, damn it, it opened it in the wrong way. Oh, man, I grabbed the wrong window. It's supposed to. There we go. List. Did that show the list in here? No, wait, those aren't public? No, I know at least this one is. Okay, so if you go to the list name, it's at least public. But anyway, so this will be a neat area that I'm going to start collecting different, basically just different interesting repositories to kind of show everyone. Let's go look at something. I forked Rusthound? Really? I didn't mean to fork that. Let's go delete that one. I don't need a fork of Rusthound. Delete. I haven't even made any commits to this. I don't know why I forked it. I'll just delete it later. Not going to worry about that right now. Going to move. Going to have to throw up a Grafana LXC or something. What's Grafana again? Oh, Grafana, you mean like the what is that? Not elk stack, is it? Yeah, but it's a metrics gathering system. Yeah, that might actually be not a bad idea. Although I'm trying to think how it would work. Maybe we could throw it up in here. So one thing that Ludus does not do is it doesn't do LXC management. It only does virtual machine management. That would be a neat addition, though. I have to think about how to work through that. Because the current operation for Ludus, look at it. But what it's going to do is it's going to clone out all these guys right here, right? And then it's going to clone them into a virtual machine. So I'm not sure what we could do to maybe have a container set up, make sure it's in the right network. Yeah, you could still do it through a VM. But actually, now you've got me curious. I wonder what it would take to do that. I'm stuck on 80 gigs of RAM for this machine now. Well, I decided I was finally, because I want to be able to do other stuff while this is running. I was like, okay, I want to go ahead and upgrade the RAM. I thought it would last longer, and then of course, decided, let's go build this giant monstrosity of a Frankenlab and make it start working. Excellence. In fact, I want to go log into the Blaze user and go ahead and delete his. We don't really need that anymore. Ludus range district. Go ahead and nuke his. I don't want to nuke out Attacker because Attacker is what's running our Mythic and Ghost Rider installs right now. There we go. So I tell you what, so while that is running, let that run for a second, because we kind of left off running through the finally, like after a 3-week break, update of last weekend security, which is such a great, it is such a great newsletter. Let's see. So we talked about Frac 71, the publicdata.com leak where they publish their own freaking passwords. Oh my gosh. That level of that's a bad mess up. Confusion attacks exploiting hidden semantic ambiguity in Apache. Interesting. Adding TLDs to your recon list tool now available. Look at this. Enumerating private TLD. What they're talking about. So a few months ago when I performed a red team assessment for a major retail company, during the OSINT phase, I reviewed the SSL certificates that included the client name. That's actually, if you get nothing else from whatever we're going to read here, that's a fantastic thing to do. Most SSL certificates go into something called a transparency log. And if you ever spun up Evil Jinx or anything that has like a Let's Encrypt certificate, and you watch your network traffic, as soon as you generate that, you're going to start noticing your domain gets hit instantly by automated scanners. And all those scanners are doing is they're scraping the transparency logs. And they're seeing like, oh, hey, a new domain was issued a TLS certificate. Let's go scan the crap out of it. So usually whenever I would go set up Evil Jinx, I would set it up, but I wouldn't have it be internet accessible. And so if I needed to use Let's Encrypt, that would be one thing I would do. And just give it like 3 days, let those scanners kind of chill out and get their initial, oh, nothing's there, and then start working with it some more. Let's see. So in these certificates, identified the client owned its own TLD. TLD is the last part of the company name. Oh, interesting. So companies such as Google own many TLDs, including .goog, Go, Google, and manages all those TLDs and domains under them. I didn't know owning TLDs was actually so common. Following table some of the companies verified TLDs: Gucci, Jaguar, Kia, Netflix, Marriott. So the client's TLD piqued my interest, so I used Google and GitHub to try and find tools that could provide me with a list of TLDs owned by an organization to search for domains. So why should I care about these TLDs? Well, one of my favorite bug bounty hunters, Jason Haddix, a person known within the hacking community for his OSINT abilities, once said a bug hunter's methodology lab course: for every Apex domain you find, you 4x your chances of hacking the target. I should have blazebits.blazebits. I don't know. Dude, I'm not baller enough to get my own TLD. Well, I'm curious about this though. Google.google. Name not resolved. Google. Google.google. I'm just trying to see, like, would anything show up in Google with the .google TLD? Actually, there was, God, what was that TLD? But they wanted way too much money for it. I thought about getting. I think there's a .ventures, like an adventure, right? So I was gonna register hacking ad.ventures. So it'd be hacking adventures. But they wanted, I forget, they wanted like a couple $100 to use that. I'm like, you're out of your mind. Get out of here. Not paying for that. Something that should be as exceedingly dirt cheap. I also wanted to register blockchaincloud.ai because I just thought it'd be funny to have all the buzzwords in the domain name. So the issue, I couldn't find a tool or site that would provide me a list with TLDs and a specific domain for each TLD. So all the enumeration tools focus on subdomains. Yep. That's not necessarily true. There's a tool that I like using that will find associated domains. It's called Buildout. Yeah, it's from Black Lantern Security. This is a really killer tool. I like to think of this as AMAS on steroids. Even though a lot of people say that they like AMAS better, I prefer Buildout. I think it runs fantastic. And the idea of what it will do is you've got different types of modules. Those modules will go through and do enumerations, and they'll return different types of artifacts. Those artifacts get categorized and then fed into other modules in the same category. So subdomain enumeration is one of them. So your target would say, see, everybody almost wants to hack Evil Corp, just like I was saying. And then the type of attacks you want to run are subdomain enums. Search Yandex. You know, I never even use Yandex. Closed. Like you're banned. Actually, you know what? Let's try another one. Go check in. Find Google.Google. See if they have anything. Maybe it'd be tripdubs.google. I'm not sure what they would do with it. It didn't. Oh, okay. I thought it crashed for a second. I thought it didn't like that. Okay. TLD.google. See, this comes back. Goose for about.google. Let's try that real quick. About.google. Ah, cool. Yeah, no kidding, right? Is Yandex the is that the Russian search engine? I forget. Yeah. It's probably why it's being blocked. They're like, screw those Texas guys. Totally safe. But yeah, this is one of those tools like I love using for reconnaissance. Now, the kicker with Buildout is it uses a lot of not private, but also non-public APIs, ones that you have to go register for a key with. And sometimes you have to pay a subscription for it. And so it can do a ton of stuff. Ooh, pretty graph. Actually, this is a great example because this one, hey, this is where it might take one piece of data and flow it into another. So email addresses over to emails, email formats. Look, check CredShed, check Hunter.io, check PGP, SkyMem, SSL certs, stuff like that. So it's a really cool tool. But the biggest thing is you got to take the time to go through and do your configuration. Actually, so there's a Buildout YAML, and where you can go through and you configure the modules with your various API keys. And this is where a lot of the power from it really comes from. You can use it to do without the API keys. It's just going to be severely handicapped. Yeah, I like DNS dumpster. I forget what all this one actually checks. I think there is an example. That's it. That's Discord bot. Let's see. I thought there was an example bbot.yaml in here. You know, I think I submitted a pull request to them a while ago. On how to run this with a batch file. Wasn't it? I want to say I had sent them one for a PS1 file. PowerShell? No. Oh well. I guess not. Because I remember to say I had submitted a pull request just for a quick helper script for them. But anyway. Let's see. Yeah, so what he's mentioning here is all the enumeration tools, they typically focus on subdomains, but not necessarily finding TLDs. So there are projects such as Zip by Trickist that focused on brute forcing domains based on a specific TLD, in this case the .zip one. The tool is actively brute forcing domain based on a word list, which is fine. It kind of works. So we have TLD Finder. New tool. Streamlined tool for discovering TLDs, associated domains, and related domain names. Nice and written and go. I have to go tinker with this a little bit. It would be fun to. What's it? Hold on. How to register your own TLD. How to create your own TLD. Make your own top-level domain name. I'm curious about this now. Because the main thing I'm curious about it is, if you could register your own TLD, and you had full control over it, then how would a lot of the DNS reputation stuff work? Do you still need to go find like an old domain and squat on it, like checking expired domains, or could you maybe just go register your own TLD? So you have to set up your own registry operator within the internet ecosystem, keep the master database of all domain names registered for each top-level domain. You can buy one or build your own, but it's a long process, not to mention very difficult. I would say buy one if you can't put a server in your house or office space. Not sure you'd want to put your TLD server in your house. This is what I was expecting here. I can. Only takes applicants every few years. So be sure you're not only prepared, but can also have a solid $100,000 to $300,000 sitting in the bank, because it's not cheap. The ability for single letter TLDs are either nil or such expensive that it keeps the pace of people away. Do not choose two letters unless you can convince a country to allow it. True. Fight, bid, work hard, sell it. Too funny. Yeah, I'm not getting my own TLD then. I don't know how much money the stream would have to make. It'd have to be a lot for me to say, oh yeah, sure, let me just go drop a 300 grand and we're gonna have, you know, .blaze bits. Yeah. Yeah. There are better places to spend those resources. So what they want to do is they want to find the TLD, doing some regex searches from a list of TLDs with a client name and variations of the name. Okay. Actually, hold on. That's another question. Find List of all registered TLDs. Click here to view the list. Oh, nice. Oh no, it's so now. Goodyear, Google. Let me see about this. Bible, bike, bingo. Black Friday is its own TLD. That's awesome. That's pretty funny. Let's see. So, doing brute forcing, finding. Took a few days of experimentation with all the APIs to determine if they allow the new regex or not, but I learned some stuff. Cert.sh, which is, yeah, if you haven't seen cert.sh, this is the tool I like to use. And there's other tools where you can do it on the command line where you can search for an organization. So, like, I think we can search for, try Google. And maybe my internet's just running slow. I think I need to refresh my router. Because come to think of it, it is getting on the old side. Wait, this is my preferred way to do this, is with the cert.sh GitHub or a repository. Is the right one? I think I'm thinking of the wrong thing. What's that tool? Is it cert.sh? No, this is for making self-signed certs. That's not it. Damn it, I'll have to go figure out what that tool is called. But it was one that essentially would do the same thing, and it would go query this, something like the cert.sh transparency logs. Go bring them down, and it would then generate what they were doing with it. Let's see. Let's go pop in and check it on Ludus real quick. All right, cool. Ludus is still churning and burning. Similar approach can be used with NetAtlas, so an OSINT company that allows you to register and use their API to query domain information. I've seen Netless. What's the pricing on this? You can do up to 50 requests per day. That's not bad. That's a nice little free tier, right? Well, actually, it depends, I guess, how many domains you're checking. But at least this isn't outrageously priced. Sometimes, like these little private APIs, they just get ridiculously expensive. Oh, I didn't even realize TLD Finder is under Project Discovery. That's cool. If you're curious for doing anything like OSINT or just like footprint analysis for clients, Project Discovery has some really great stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go drop them in the chat because they're really good folks. They have lots of really neat tools in here. Nuclei being one of my favorites. See what else we've got coming out here. So unauthenticated remote code execution on BYOB via spoofed file exfil and command injection. This exploit in Build Your Own Botnet, an open source post exploitation framework for students, works by spoofing an agent, exfiltrating a file to overwrite the SQL database and bypass authentication. It's always fun to find exploits in hacker tools. Because it's like, you know, it's like, ha, how the turns have tabled. Get your HTTPX results in the PD dashboard. Yes. So for those of you who don't know, HTTPX is a it's a what does it do exactly? It's basically a tool for doing all sorts of scans against web servers, checking them out, looking at them. I forget exactly what all it does. It's one of those tools that's built into Bbot. That's actually I never use HTTPX by itself. I always use it in the Bbot context. So HTTPX 167 now has a dashboard with built-in asset management available in the Project Discovery Cloud platform. I didn't even know they had a cloud platform. That's cool. What's it look like here? They're doing a little discovery against good old Tesla. Yeah, one of the things that we'll do also is it'll start giving you ideas on what the tech stack is running on these. That's pretty cool. Hold on, we'll see what their cloud platform looks like. And I haven't been paying close attention to Project Discovery. Let's see, they got a $25 million Series A funding. The problem with proprietary software tools is the attack surface of our products grow and get more complex, but the tools most companies use don't give visibility. Yada yada. So after a couple years of working on Project Discovery, they went full-time in 2021. I didn't realize they were doing this full-time. I thought this was just purely a community-driven system. Let's see. Hopefully you already know about Nuclei. Uses customized templates to find security vulnerabilities across the entire tech stack. So whether you're using an application, API, or any third-party app, you can use Nuclei to discover the risks you have across them. Yep. So Nuclei Cloud is the first stage of building a commercialized open-source stack for Project Discovery. Cool. Okay, I see what they're kind of doing. It sounds like what they're going to be doing is using the open-source tools, but they're going to be using some, let's say, proprietary configurations for them. They're going to have their own Nuclei templates. They're going to have their own different configuration files tweaked for basically the most effect. The open source version works, and if you take the time to do care and feeding of it, it's gonna work great. But what they're doing is doing all that curation for you so you can just run it for your business. So when they use the example of Log4Shell, when that dropped, Project Discovery had our first templates within 24 hours. Within the week, we had over a dozen different templates. That's cool. I hope that goes really well for them. Because like I said, the guys, they do such good work. They come up with all sorts of neat stuff. Catching shells without an infrastructure using open Tor relays. Yeah, that's usually really sus, though. Anybody with like a monochrome security posture typically is going to catch Tor-style traffic. Let's see. This whole thing arose to answer a very straightforward question. How do you go about catching connect-back shells or implant beacons when you don't have an infrastructure? Assume you can't simply rent a VPS. Let's see. At this point, I should note that Gsocket by THC is probably more suitable for whatever you're going to do for that stuff. Yada yada. So a few others have published ways of doing this. For example, back in 2016, Midnight Runner showed how to use Tor to web and a hidden service to use Empire. You're limited to using HTTP and HTTPS callbacks, of course. Tor to web gateways may interfere a bit with your command and control protocol. Yeah, that's the other big problem for it. Yeah, Tor is notoriously slow. So you're going to be running what is already kind of a handicapped channel if you want to have any form of stealth, which is a C2 channel. And then you're going to be running it over an incredibly slow link. So, okay, so now he's getting something interesting. He started wondering if there's a way to do this with non-HTTP protocols without having to wrap them in an HTTP layer. So, for example, like a basic TCP reverse shell. Let's assume that the easy option of just dropping a Tor binary and embedding one is out of the question due to the payload size. If you do this, you have to wrap your implant in the SOCKS proxy anyway. You can use other people's open Tor relays as ingress proxies to the Tor network. They're basically a SOCKS proxy, and most programming languages have somewhere an easy-to-use SOCKS proxy implementation as a library. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So with this, your implant connects back to whatever open relay you specify, and there's a bunch, then talks over Tor to your hidden service listener. The network protocol you decide to use is entirely irrelevant so long as it is TCP and can be wrapped in SOCKS. All right, cool. Ran into something interesting today that I don't think I've seen in a live environment. A low priv group having generic right over the domain itself. I'm sorry, what? I was like, oh, I can just make a user a domain admin, but apparently there's not tooling for this case. I haven't run into this scenario. Hold on, he has, wait a second. So this group has generic write permissions. Okay, if they have, what the hell does that even mean? They've got generic write permissions to the domain. Hold on, let's go look at something. Did you find this in like Bloodhound, or is it just something you noticed? Let's go check the documentation for this real quick. So with generic write over a user, you can write to the key credentials and abuse attribute. Writing to this property, you can have shadow credentials, right? So users, groups, computers, GPO. So it's generic write to the domain? This disturbs me. Laughing, do me a favor. Can you give me a can you send me a redacted screenshot on Discord? Just so I can see exactly what you're seeing. Because I'm dying to know what the hell is going on. That's an interesting problem. Okay, cool. Send it to me tomorrow. And what I'll do is I'll reach out to some folks that are better AD wizards than me. I'm not even like an AD wizard. I'm like AD Harry Potter. Like, I'm still trying to finish my schooling. And I know some guys that are like full-blown like wizards. And I'll ask a couple of them, it's like, hey guys, you ever seen anything like this? Because that's trippy. I want to know exactly what it's showing. Now, one thing it says here is also this edge could be a false positive in rare scenarios. So if you have generic write on the GPO with this object only and no inheritance and no other permissions in the ACL, it's not possible to add or modify settings to the GPO. The GPO settings are stored in sysvol under a folder given the GPO. So therefore, you need write access to child objects of that folder to create object permissions. Okay. What about the AD Voldemort? I mean, I do like interesting persistence mechanisms. I could be AD Voldemort. I'll just make like a little library of a bunch of interesting persistence mechanisms and call it Horcrux. So ChatGPT was trying to have me hand jam a whole Python script to add a user, and I was like, nah, dog. Oh, they got a video reference here. I'm curious to see what they say about this. Oh, pause. Oh, this is from 6 years ago at DerbyCon. DerbyCon doesn't even happen anymore, which is sad. I never even got to go. Dad. So, here, Lappin, just in case this might be helpful, I'm going to drop it over in the chat for you. I'm curious to know... I'm really curious to know what that's indicating. Generic write permissions to the domain. One thing you could also check for it is whenever you dumped the data out to import into Bloodhound, I believe it's just going to be all a bunch of JSON, right? You could go look for that group in that JSON data and then follow the various nested keys and see if you notice anything about what kind of permissions it has to the domain. You could also go check like what the domain node would be and see if it's got any interesting permissions listed referencing that group. Because that's really interesting, and I'm dying to know now. At DA in the forest, I'm gonna pull it again to see if it's something that Rusthound couldn't see with the user I pulled it with. Okay. Yeah, let me know, dude, because that's really interesting. And right now, I'm trying to think, like, I don't even know if I wanted to replicate that, how I could even replicate that. I didn't mean to close that. Alright, deploy is still churning. Dude, I've never seen that before. So, Python, Bash. Alright, so I was playing with this concept. The Tor project has released a few versions of their Rust library RT, Tor implementation in Rust that can be used for both hidden service clients and servers. Oh, interesting. It's also possible to shovel or reverse shell over the Veiled network using some shell trickery. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the Veiled project. I followed it whenever they released it last DEF CON, but I haven't been following it very closely. So, interesting idea here. The fake potato? Dude, another potato attack? Come on. Alright, that's adorable. Although, I'm disappointed that the background scales up with the rest of it. That's just insane. So while exploring the DCOM objects for the silver potato, I stumbled upon the Shell Windows DCOM application. So this, along with Shell browser windows, is well known in the offensive community for performing lateral movement by instantiating these objects remotely with admin privileges. However, I was curious to understand if they could be abused locally by a standard user. Oh, so maybe for privilege escalation. Potato attacks aren't real. They can't hurt you. Right? Potatoes are fake news. What have potatoes ever done for us anyway, other than cause famine? Hi, kid. So the DCOM application Shell Windows is configured to run under the identity of the interactive user. So the permission set of this applications are the default ones, meaning that interactive users can at least launch and activate the DCOM application locally. Okay. So let's take a look at how the decom application is configured, and using the type library, we get lots of useful info. So type, and this he's just putting in the GUID for that. What was it called? Yeah, what was it called? Shell windows. So the class is registered by Explorer, and the activator will use this one. Several methods are exposed. Neat. Eject PC. I like that. Just send it to space. Shell execute. String. Very. So the shell execute is what we're looking for, given that it allows the execution of external commands of an application. So now with the help of all of you, let's see what the access security and this does. Let's see. What was he checking? I've actually never used Oliview. Let's see what the access security in the explore.exe process. Yeah, eject PC. The optical drive stays in place, and the whole PC just jumps back 8 feet. I can visualize that right now, and it cracks me up. I tell you what, the ads are about to run, so I'm going to grab some water. I'll be right back, guys. Right, I'm back. Dripped off. Thanks for coming online, man. Welcome. We got about 30 seconds left on the ads. We're gonna hit that. We'll go keep digging through this comm abuse. Comm abuse is something I'm barely familiar with, and it's something I want to learn a ton more about. Because, why not? Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, that's cool. There was a line for water. I didn't get my water. My wife brought it to me because she loves me. Cool. So what he's doing here is he's looking at the Explorer process, and checking out what permissions are here. And this one is always one I love to see, which is authenticated users. So basically just any user that has logged in. It's available to be used in here. Now, what's funny is it shows it's not using execute remote. But that's actually not the point of this. The point of this one was, hey, can we execute it locally? So we have a DCOM application impersonating the interactive user. It's hosted by the Explorer process, which grants execute access to authenticated users. Ooh. So now if we could perform a cross-section activation, a non-privileged user could activate the object on behalf of another user connected in a different session and invoke the shell execute method. Nice. I like this. So let's say we're user 1 and an administrator is also connected in session 2. So we can just activate the COM object in session 2 using the bind2 moniker call and the execute shell execute and execute the shell execute function method. So for example, get back to a reverse shell from an administrator. All right, 2. So what he does here is he queries the users. We see administrator is over in session 2. So he defines a bind to moniker. So I'm not sure what that does, but I'm guessing you're defining a session. And then I believe this GUID here was the one from before, which specifies that shell windows. Let's see, that one was 9BA 8F39. 9BA 8F39. Yeah, so that's what he's doing. He's accessing on that session the COM object in administrator's explorer.exe. Let's see. So then we're going to define the object item document application. Then we're going to do a shell execute of the reverse.bat. Nice. Okay. Cool. Then he had a local netcat listener listening to catch it. Okay, cool. I approve of this. This is awesome. So now comes the fun part. I tried this method on another user without admin privileges, and guess what? Denied. So this is strange, but a quick check on access security explains why we get access denied. So authenticated user permissions on the Explorer process are missing in this case. So if a process is running in medium integrity, which is standard behavior, tell me about it, stuck in medium integrity purgatory, even those who are members of the administrators group, because UAC is enabled, they will lack permissions for this group. Oh, interesting. However, the real administrator with UAC disabled has all processes running under high integrity. That's interesting. Oh, wait, hold on. This is if the administrator is running with UAC disabled, which is very unlikely this day and age. Might as well call it booty integrity. I know, right? It's funny because there is a low integrity process. I've never seen it used because it is so restricted. It makes it to where you really can't even use it. So this clearly seems to be a bug. The question is, how long has this been around? Is it possible no one discovered it yet? Yada yada. So I like the idea of it, but it looks like there's, and this is true for every exploit, but there's caveats here. Submitted to MSRC, and the security bug was fixed July 2020. I'm curious what we'll find when Windows sudo is eventually released. Windows sudo, especially if it works anything at all like Linux sudo, which I mean it probably won't, but there are so many ways to abuse sudo rules to do an escalation in Linux. It's so hard to make it where it works just properly. You might be wondering why I called this fake potato. Initially, I thought it could be exploited using the same techniques as the potato family, but turns out to be different and much simpler. Okay, that's funny. I like the fake potato though. Let's see. Ghostwrite was a vulnerability in some of the RISC-V CPUs. This vulnerability allows unprivileged attackers, even those with limited access, to read and write any part of the computer's memory and to control peripheral devices. Yep. My company ever fired me, I'm doing a pseudo RMRF. If you don't know what RMRF stands for, that is the resume maker binary. And if you put TAC RF, that's resume make really fast. That's what that is. Let's see. Quarantine. Infecting .NET assemblies is a real issue. This article is a deep dive into how attackers can mess with .NET assemblies and Windows to sneak in malicious code. Examples of different techniques they might use. Google Translate is your friend. Let's not go do Google Translate right now. In fact, hang on, let's go check the Ludus deployment. Still churning. Couple of bones and the no before application. Oops, I UDL'd it again. New phishing technique, universal data link configuration files to leak NTLM or even plain text creds. Okay, you piqued my interest, sir. Oh, it's from our boys over at Trusted Sec. Except, Trusted Sec. Trusted Sec, your page's outline's weird. There we go. I've got to zoom way in just to get rid of the... Just to get rid of this stuff on the side. No one likes the persistent table of contents taking up screen real estate. Or trying to fish people again. Board. What was the SCCM secrets thing? Is that it? Yeah, I didn't like the dot there. It's like, you're sending a link. It's from Synactive. It's the... Oh god, why would you do that? Why would you do this giant white on red? Alright, Laughing, have a good night, dude.
Like the planet!
Planet. We can just go straight to the GitHub repo. Let's go take a look at it. SACM Policies Exploitation Tool goes beyond NAA credential extractions and aims to provide a comprehensive approach regarding SCCM policies exploitation. The tool can be executed from various levels of privileges and will attempt to uncover potential misconfigurations related to policies distributions. It'll dump the contents of all the secret policies. Cool. Encountered, as well as the collection variables, in addition to package scripts hosted on the distribution point. Finally, it can be used throughout the intrusion process by configuring it to impersonate legitimate SCCM clients. Oh, interesting. That'd be cool. So you have it pivot an SCCM client, and then it can send you the configuration. You could get the NAA, the network authentication account. I think that's what that stands for. Running without providing credentials attempts to exploit automatic device approval for secret policy retrieval, attempts to exploit distribution points, anonymous access for external resource dumping. Cool. Neat. Let's check that out. Hold on. Am I logged in here? I am. Cool. Star that. We're going to put this under red team stuff. Also, lateral move. Yeah, we'll do that. As more people move to Azure and Intune, SCCM will start disappearing. Oh yeah, dude. Definitely. You'll start seeing SCCM just like slowly fade off into the sunset. Let's see, so this post about a new phishing technique based on some legacy knowledge that I had that could be used to get past email filters. So the usual discovery is made during an engagement. Oh, it's in a scenario where I needed to find the database servers through a lockdown Citrix session. Based on some old notes I had from 2017, I knew that there was a native way to enumerate database servers in Windows environments by simply creating an empty file with the .udl extension. Once the file is created, you can open it and you'll be presented with a GUI that looks like this. Interesting. So the interesting part of the scenario is that you can press the down arrow at the top line, and then it will broadcast the network for available SQL servers and list them right in the drop-down arrow. Nice. So they gave me what I needed at the time. However, I could not stop thinking about the struggles I had earlier in the engagement getting any fish into the mailboxes. So out of curiosity, decided I would simply send this to my own mailbox from a test account. I had to see if the attachment would come through. To my big surprise, it did. It wasn't even blocked by Outlook or anything. Nice. You shall not pass unless you're a UDL file. So these are universal data link configuration files. So the main purpose of these is to be able to test connections towards a database server. So it supports various providers. This can also depend on what's installed on the host. However, there's a few standard providers that are most likely to be present. For example, Microsoft's OLIDB provider for SQL servers, which is also the default chosen for UDL files. So the connection tab's the default, yada yada. Looking at the connection tab, we can use default provider. We can see that you can fill out the server name, choose between integrated security, and choose other usernames. You can also choose to select a database on the server or attach a database file as a database name. Let's see. So let's take a look at what a UDL file actually looks like by opening it in Notepad. So it defines the provider and its attributes, what kind of security it's going to be using, and the source, notarealserver.com. Nice. So the entire file is just a plain text file based on some experimentation. The commented line needs to be present for it to work. Okay, that's funny. You also might wonder what happens if you press the test connection button. Well, that's where things get interesting because it will attempt to connect to the server defined in the server field on port 1433. So upon connection, it will use integrated security to authenticate as the user. If you choose to fill in a specific username and password, however, it will send that as part of the authentication. I'm assuming you can see where this is heading in terms of phishing. Yeah, no kidding. So we need to send this to a user with a pretext that gets the user to either press test connection or fill in their username and password before hitting it. Now that you have some details, let's see what kind of phishing scenario they come up with. I'd be interested to know what kind of phishing scenario they come up with where any user is going to do this. Because the biggest thing about phishing is it's a psychology game first and a technology game second. The reason I say that is because if you can't get somebody to perform the malicious action, then it doesn't matter what the malicious action is. So, for example, I had a phishing campaign where I sent it to users, and I used a context that was similar to what LastPass did when they had their breach, and they made everybody rotate their passwords, right? Well, when they rotated those passwords, they told everybody, hey, I need you to come in and go change your password so we can upgrade the hashing algorithm. So in the context, I actually explained everything that needed to be done. I was like, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. And all you have to do is go here, log in. It will save your new hash credentials, and then you're done. You can just close your browser. And actually, I had really good success with that, like up to 10% success rate with people submitting creds. And so it was a psychological game. I made it look like it was from IT. I made it look boring, right? It wasn't jazzed up. It looked like, hey, this was some IT guy just trying to write helpful instructions. So the psychology game was pretty on point for that one. And so that one was simple though. All I needed to do was go visit my phishing link and enter their credentials. and it was a masked front end for Evil Jinx to capture their session tokens. Hey Suthar, what's up, man? Sounding reasonable works, especially if it sounds like you're protecting them. Yeah. Let me look at something real quick here. Data link properties. I mean, I'm trying to think what users, unless they are just highly untechnical, are going to think, hey, I'm running something, then it's got this data link property thing. Not sure. I'm curious, though. So let's see what happens if we capture a hash with this technique. So first, we're going to set up responder. We'll make sure we got the SQL server turned on. Hey, Chris, what's up, dude? Yeah, but Nefton, that goes back to that thing I was just saying, though. You've got to make sure that whatever your context is, your pretext, is, it needs to sound reasonable, but it also needs to be low effort for the user. Because you want something that's going to be a quick win for them, right? They can get in, they can get it done, they can check it off their little box, like, yes, I got something good done today. All right, Chris, do your thing, man. Let's see. So as you can see, you now have a net NTLM v2 hash shown in the screenshot below. So we have the SQL server enabled on responder. Got a connection, and you see we got a net NTLM v2 coming back. Awesome. So on the client side, you'll get an error message like the one shown below, taking into account the actual pretext. So when using the option to let the user fill in the username and password, the flow looks like so. Dave Kennedy. Kennedy. So one thing to note on filling usernames and passwords is that you can pre-fill the username before you send it to the user, making the pretext more believable. Oh, that's cool. But in most cases, based on my experience, port 1433 will be blocked outbound from the customer, making the technique somewhat useless. So you can take a gamble, it'll be open. But let's see if we can create something else. Oh, okay, so cool. I figured this is where he was going next, if he even mentioned that. You can specify a port for the database, so you could say port 80. Only problem is that if you press test connection now, responder will not respond. Since this is an MS SQL configuration. Okay, so you got to go through and you got to change your responder configuration to have SQL listening on 80 for that. So you turn off HTTP. Oh, actually, it looks like you can't even change that in the responder configuration. You actually have to go change it in the code, looks like. Again, why it's good to know how to tinker with the code of your tools. That's pretty slick, though. Social engineering, there we go. I'm gonna drop that in the social engineering channel. All right. Pretty cool. It's fun to find those little obscure data formats, or like data file formats. Those are always so fun. All right, cool. Let's see what we've got here. We had a failure on Squid. That's to be expected, though. We should also have a failure on Web. Yep. Nothing else is reading as failed. Go check our errors. Let's see. So error 1 can't get installed. That's fine, because that's on, I think, DMC. Error 2 can't. Okay, cool. So we only have 2 errors happening here. Nice. Okay. So let's go check the DC now. Where is our corp DC? To get nice and configured? What? So weird. Let me try rebooting this server. Continue. Maybe it needs an additional reboot. I'm curious to know why the domain creation wasn't working for this one. It's working for some of the others. See what happens after we reboot this. One of the dead giveaways in Ludus is we should have BG info running here, and it should give us the list of the information here. So the fact that it's not running tells me something didn't configure right on this server. So I did an on-site engagement where I took a manual for a server and walked through it with the receptionist page by page to get past. Nice. Yeah, never make a target jump through hoops to shoot themselves in the foot. Exactly. You want to try and make it as quick as possible. So I'm trying to think what kind of pretext you could use for that data link pretext. Because it's going to open... It's not going to open something in a web browser. That just makes them feel nice and cozy. Dang, so it looks like it kind of worked, but for some reason it didn't create the domain here. It should have made the domain and it should have joined it over to babybottles.inc. What kind of pretext could you use for that? So you could, I mean, and it's different when you're trying to devise a spear phishing campaign versus a phishing campaign, right? Phishing campaign, you're going to hit a large swath of the company, right? If you're doing a spear phishing campaign, though, you can tailor it to the person. So let's say, I mean, especially like if you're targeting someone's like assistant, you can say, hey, by the way, we're worried that maybe something is something in our rollout of Excel patches has been causing issues for a lot of users. This data link update should do it. It's going to show an error, but that's fine. It actually means it worked, and then put the steps in there for them. So yeah, that definitely seems like it would be way better geared towards the spear side than the masked blast out side. All right, let's go try something. I'll have it follow the logs again. And then let's do our deploy. I think it's user-defined roles. And we'll limit it to local host. And what's that machine called? Dev BBI Corp DC. Dev BBI. I want to try this. See if I remember this command offhand. Random HR person 443 isn't going to follow along on a DB connector. So I wonder if there's some undocumented fans that could use current user creds. Maybe. Yeah, it'd be cool to kind of dig into that a bit, just because what you could possibly also do is anything where you can trigger it to hit a network resource and automatically authenticate to it, you can in some ways capture either credentials or more likely an NTLM v2 challenge, right? So if there was some way to make it, hold on, let me pull up that article again. I just had an idea. Just gave me an idea here. Yeah, I think, you know what? I just realized. He said you could reference a file with this. So the main purpose of the UDL files, it supports various providers. Connection tab's the default. You can open the UDL file. Oh, there we go. You can also choose to select a database on the server or attach a database file as a database name. So if you could point this to a fake database on your responder, right? That might work. That's using specific username and password. And what did he say about security SSPM? So let's see. First, we can capture a hash with this fire responder. See what happens when we press test connection. As you can see, you now have a net NTLM v2 challenge. And down here, I think what he did is he actually had them supply credentials. So it looks like Neftin wants to use built-in Windows NT authentication, right? Net NTLM. It was to use that by default, but you could also have it specify the username and password here. So if you're just trying to maybe capture a credential to relay, that would be something also. Because what you could do is you could point this, rather than pointing to, I'd say probably the simplest way you could make this work, point this to an UNC path, have it use Windows integrated security, and just have them run test connection. Yeah, and then you could at least get some hashes that way. And that also helps reduce the friction of the overall campaign of trying to get them to interact with your phishing stuff. Yeah, exactly. By the way, that trick also works for anything that accepts an SMB or UNC path. So you get into like a SQL server and you want to try and capture the credential hashes. You just do, let's say you have command execution on the SQL side, but XP command shell is disabled, you can't enable it. You could do a dir tree to your server and capture that NTLM v2 hash. So there's tons of ways to trick that. Yeah, I'd say that would be the way you could probably go through with that. Just point it to your file share. That'd be cool. Ah, dang it. Looks like it didn't like it. Ludus range list. Oh, because up here, it's lowercase dev. I think it's case sensitive. Let's try this again. Let's see if this works. Alright, looks like it's working now. Bastard. I gotta remember what... Dang it, what was it? Ludus range, deploy, help. The only roles string, limit the user-defined rules to run. Pack T as tags. The Ansible tags to run for this deployment. So we only wanted to run the ones that are tagged as user-defined roles. And the limit string, limit the deployment to VM that matches the specified pattern, have to include localhost. Yeah, that should have worked. Ludus range deploy, user defined roles. Make sure that's the correct tag. It's gonna be a dark day when Microsoft moonlights NTLM creds. I thought they were already trying to sunset NTLM authentication. Why is this not showing up? Dude. Yeah, it is user-defined roles. That's the tag right there. So that should have worked. Yeah. Gonna break all my file shares. When are they doing that? Actually, let's see. NTLM sunset. Let's see. All versions of NTLM are no longer under active feature development and are deprecated. Use of NTLM will continue to work in the next release of Windows Server and the next annual release of Windows. So 2025, yeah. Now they're not going to get rid of. I mean, it looks like after 2025 they're going to stop including it. Let's see. Calls to NTLM should be replaced by calls to negotiate, which will try to authenticate with Kerberos, and the only fallback to the NTLM when necessary. Dan getting busted for phishing. I got it, Dan. Let's go check it out real quick. So Windows 11 24 H2 and Server 2025. Let's see. So back in October last year, Microsoft expressed its desire to eventually disable NTLM off. Companies now on its official website has updated the list of deprecated features where it has now added NTLM. This includes Landman, NTLM v1 and v2. So however, alongside that, excuse me. We still disable Windows Credential Guard. We're likely not disable NTLM. Let's see. The tech giant also added that it would continue to work on the next release of Windows Server and the annual release of Windows, which means it should function on the 2024 update version H2, Windows Server 2025. Yeah. So I mean, it'll be a while before it disappears, but start working on that Kerberos tradecraft. Try this. I'm going to take out the... Let's see what happens. So I'll just let it run all the user-defined roles again. We'll see what happens. Kerberos plus ADCS equals win. Yeah, no kidding. By the way, if anybody wants to practice ADCS stuff, since you just reminded me, over here in Ludus, if you come over to the deployment, the environment guides. Here, there is an ADCS lab. This ADCS lab includes everything from escalation 1 to 13. So, tons of it. Well, I take that back, because some of them are kind of variations on a theme, but it includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 13. So lots of fun ones there. And it's a pretty small lab too. It's really just one server in here. Hold on. How did he configure that? Because we're going to have to do a little bit of ADCS. This uses the Bad Sector Labs Ludus ADCS. I want to see this real quick. Ansible. There we go. Any documentation? Any versions? Nope. There's a GitHub repo though. Colonel Sanders. Oh, that's Eric. Okay. That's funny. Eric is one of the primary guys that is working on Ludus. I just didn't know his GitHub name was Colonel Sanders. That's awesome. To read up on Ludus now, guess I'll add it to the list. School wants me to do the NCL this October and beginning of next year. It's on my list. What is NCL? Is that the National Cyber League? Yeah, okay. I haven't done anything with the National Cyber League. This last year, I volunteered with the CCDC, the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition, and that was pretty fun. I got to work with some guys who were really sharp, because what they do is every college has its own team, and they are basically the blue team, the system administrators for their little network. But then there's also a red team, which is a bunch of industry volunteers who are usually pen testers and offensive security folks. And their job is to go in and mess with the students. So I remember it was really funny, actually, during the qualifiers, we had a lot of issues because there was something that was misconfigured, and so it wasn't vulnerable in the way that the gold team, which is the guys who set up the infrastructure, thought it was going to be vulnerable. And so there was a whole lot of, they're like trying to give us hints on how we're supposed to have gotten into the network, and it was like completely just whoosh, flying over our heads. But it was a lot of fun. I was supposed to go to Oklahoma for the regionals because they held it in I think they held it at OSU. But anyway, I was supposed to go up there for that, but I couldn't make it. I had work got in the way, unfortunately. So that was going to be a lot of fun because I was looking forward to like meeting all the folks that we were yelling at each other on the Discord, like, "Hey, check this, check that." It was a lot of fun. Look at the tasks here. Actually, I want to go look at something. So now that I understand the structure of these a little bit better, I'm going to look at the meta YAML first. It's using Ansible Windows, Community General. And then what tasks do S. So we have a main, escalation 4, and 13. So we have install ADCS, import the administrator module, install the ADCS cert authority, install web enrollment. Okay, so for the install certificate authority, right here, he's just using Ansible PowerShell. So actually, hang on a sec. Y'all can see this. On the headphones there, my head is just like sandpaper. That is smooth right there. It doesn't have like the nice, and little flecks of this crap get on my skull. It gets itchy. I need to get some new headphones. Actually, that was why I had these nice little in-ear monitors that the cable is too short to reach to the back. Got to get that Nair. No, I just need to stop being. Well, actually, it doesn't even matter if I shave my head. As soon as I shave it, it's like 90 grit sandpaper. It's a small community college. So they don't have the free keys. It's only $35. May look at getting a RA BCP side for 8 years. What kind of key are you looking for, Fast? Oh, it's $35 to do the NCL? Okay. Gotcha. Just go in there and, like, beat it down. And be like, I have brought glory to my house. Just do it full Klingon style. This is actually good to see, this Ansible Win PowerShell thing. Because if we can PowerShell script a lot of the misconfigurations that we're going to throw into the Baby Bottles lab, this will be perfect. Dude, I don't knock like small community colleges, 2-year colleges, because that's where I started. And the community college that I went to, they have one of the best Cisco labs on the planet, and that's not an exaggeration. We literally had folks come in and visit. Cisco would bring them into that lab. I was super proud of that lab, and that was even before we moved to the bigger, upgraded lab, because it was weird. Let me show you all this. Here's roughly what the campus looked like. The campus was roughly broken down to, like, there was a section over here was all the physical activities, right? So there was the pool, there was the basketball courts, there was all that stuff over there. There was a bunch of social sciences buildings over here. And the cafeteria was over there as well. And then there was an entire huge building devoted to STEM stuff right here. And so there was this one little tiny building right here, and that's where the paramedics were trained. They had a paramedics and EMT training course, and our Cisco lab was in one little corner of that building. So we were like the redheaded stepchilds of the STEM stuff, and just like shoved over into this little side building. Eventually, we got a space that was about 5 times the size over in the STEM building, and we had to migrate everything over there. And I did so many punch downs and cable runs and combed the cables out. They looked gorgeous. Velcro wrapped, punched down, service loops. It was fantastic. I made sure that thing looked sharp. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how many. It was so many punch downs. Every row. The lab was roughly laid out like this. There was a door here, and then we had a window right here. I begged them, and my boss begged them for that window, because otherwise this just would have been a wall right here, and nobody would have seen it. This was the hallway down here. So people would be going by, and without this window, they'd never have any idea what was going on. I think we had a row here that backed up to another row, a row here that backed up to another row, and then we had a tiny row, which was for the administrators of the lab, and then we had another side room that we busted down the wall, and we had 2 more long rows right here of racks. I want to say each of these was 10. This one was like 2, but then each of these was 6, I believe. 6, 6, 6, and 6. So that's 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 52 racks in there, I think. Each one of those must have had at least 2 1U punch downs that were almost full. So I think that's about 24, let's call it 40 punch downs per rack. And each rack was interconnected. We had patch panels running between the racks. It was a lot of cabling. And then I had one of my guys that worked with me there. I was the only. There was my boss who was salaried. There was me who was full-time. And then we had 3 part-time guys there. One of my part-time guys decided that, and this all happened right before finals. So the lab has to be up and running, otherwise there's no final exam. He decided to just take this little lab right here and just drop a little bomb on it and completely dismantle it. So I had to scramble my ass. There was 24-hour days going on to get this lab, at least get 2 rows set up and working, so that way the students could do their final exams. I was so pissed at him. I was like, why would you do that? The plan was they would finish finals over here, and then we'd have the semester break to migrate the lab.
Caution. A virus has been detected.
Smarter lab, virus.
_smarter virus detected in the network.
Hopefully the Cookie Monster to slow them down. What's up, Tyler? God, I think the air is super dry in the house right now. What's up, man? How you doing? Yeah, that was him dropping the bomb on this lab and then me having to go build this other one up real fast. DEF CON was fun, but then caught COVID, so I've been MIA streaming on side. Oh, okay. Dude, yeah, I know. And you gotta think, it's the perfect environment to catch any bug, let alone, like, just the con crud. I love that dialogue. Because you gotta think, you're dehydrated, you're overstressed, you're underslept, you're underfed, and then you're just diving into a germ soup from all over the world. It's the perfect place to go get sick. So, but hopefully you're doing okay now. Hope so. What the heck happened here? Just a cold now? Yeah. Dude, the biggest pain in the ass I had from whenever I caught COVID, it was, I think, end of 2020. I had a pretty good fever. It was funny because me and my two sons caught it. And then like, they were both fine. Like after 12, 15 hours, they were like, bam, we're good. And then for me, though, it hit me the hardest. Didn't even phase my wife. I think she maybe got the sniffles. And it was crazy, though, because the one thing I remember about it that was really odd was I got up in the middle of the night, needed to go to the bathroom, and I stood up and I'd had a fever, right? I was super hot. Hi, Odager and Jbrix, thanks for coming online, guys. Welcome in. I got up to go to the bathroom, and that's when my fever broke. And I've never had a fever break like this. It didn't just kind of, it's done. No, it's like it snapped and it was done. And it felt like I was gonna black out. Like I had to catch myself on the wall. Woke my wife up because I made so much noise. She's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then managed to get to the bathroom. And then when I got done, I just sat in front of this fan that I've got in my room. And I was just like, oh, I can feel the cold again. The real Bilbo. But the way you spelled real, it's like you're fishing. You're the fishing Bilbo. Please tell me you specialize in social engineering, because that will just make my day. You're still in a work group. I don't get this. Let me check something else here. So what we're doing, guys, from Tyler Stream that just came in, my name's Blaze. I have been in IT professionally for 14 years. I've been breaking computers since the 2nd grade, and I've been a penetration tester for the last 6 years. So having lots of fun. What we're doing right now is building out a new lab in a really sweet tool called Ludus. It's super awesome. You can essentially define an entire Active Directory or whatever kind of network you want as a giant YAML file. And it will go through and it will build the lab for you. It's super neat. So what we're doing is we're building a giant monstrosity of a lab with something like 16 or 17 systems in it. It's going to have a lot of different vulnerabilities, and it's going to be designed for somebody to kind of go in and practice red teaming in an environment and get used to like pivoting through it and abusing Active Directory vulnerabilities. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but we're having to go troubleshoot the development of it. And for some reason, this domain controller doesn't want to be a domain controller. Kill me. Actually,
I'm back, baby.
hey, Galactic, what's up, dude? So I don't see that in there. All right, so I gotta remember what this flag is here. I made progress. Dude, progress is always good. No real build. Be spearfishing too. Get reel in the spear. Only tech only rules. That's it. Only rules. Drop that one in. Well, it'd help if I spelled rules correctly. Let this run. I'm on the back end of the web server. Nice. I did an nmap scan on the inside and found the DC. Dude, awesome. So, I don't know if you can discuss it in here, but do me a favor, DM me on Discord. I'm curious to know what the exploit was. When I run curb root, it doesn't come back with it. What's curb root do again? It's Kerberos up for brute forcing, right? So you have an unauthenticated connection to the domain controller? So brute forcing Windows pass with Kerberos is much faster than any other approach I know of, potentially stealthier since real authentication failures do not trigger traditional account fail to login events. So with Kerberos, you can validate username, test logins. Okay, cool. Yeah, what I'm saying, Glocked, is you don't have. Do you have like a valid user into the domain? Or are you now unauthenticated to the domain, but you're on the web server? Yeah, so you're looking at it like this. So you've got your Kali box here. You've got a shell over into the web server, right? And then off of this web server, it's got a second NIC connected to the DC. Yeah, okay. But do you have any valid user creds to this DC? Like, did you do any cred gathering on the web server that you could potentially use to authenticate to the domain controller? Was that a yes that you've got the credentials? Sorry, I looked away and I lost track of the chat. That's what I'm trying to do with Kerberoot. I have a list of users and I'm trying to see if any of them are valid. Oh, okay. Let's see. So what are some things you can do with it? One thing you might go check for, look for something like zero logon. You can go check that. It's acting like it's not talking to me. Are you using Metasploit? Oh, you SSH into the web server? Okay, cool. So one thing you can do is you can do SSH TAT-D, and I like to use port 9050. I don't know why, I forget why I started using that port, but what this will do is this will set up a SOCKS proxy here. And then what you can do is with that SOCKS proxy, you can use proxy chains, right? Oh, that's right. That is the default for proxy chains. I think that's also the default for Tor, and that's why proxy chains defaults to it. But anyway, if you use that TAT-D, you can create a SOCKS proxy through the web server, and then you could force all the traffic over it. Now, one of the things that you might have to do is you might have to go set up your Etsy host file. Because your Etsy host file, remember, everything that works over Kerberos you have to use usually the fully qualified domain name to the thing that you're doing, right? So that might be one thing you've got to do. I tell you, one thing that'd be easy to do is just use like use crackmap exec or net exec, and just have that connect to 445 on the DC, and it will start giving you some basic pieces of information. It'll tell you like what the machine's name is, what the domain is it's joined to, and stuff like that. Oh, you SCP'd Kerberoot over to the web server? Nice. I would try this. Try doing this method here. So set up your SSH with a SOCKS proxy, and then set up your proxy chains, and then try this over here. Try and use crackmap exec or NXC, netexec, and point it to this DC IP, and then see what kind of data it comes back with. Because it will probably tell you like, I've never seen it not tell me. It'll tell you what the host name is. It'll tell you what the domain is. And then probably on the web server, you'll have to go add those to the etc host file. Actually, I tell you, well, I don't know. Let's see what options Kerberoot actually has to it. You specify the DC, what the domain is. This might actually handle it by default. Or to think of it, you may not need to go set the etc host file. Were you trying the hey Galact, were you trying the user enum command? Dr. Tech, MD. Thanks for coming online, dude. Welcome. Okay. Did you make sure and specify the domain here? Because this is probably something that might be messing it up. So get the DC, get the domain. Do you have examples of like what the output looks like? So D is the domain, and tac DC is the IP address of it. Yeah. And so the usernames that you're feeding it, are those the emails that you enumerated? I've got a valid user because I've seen it based on other things. Gotcha. Well, so the ads are about to run for just a second. I need to go grab something real quick, and then we can troubleshoot this a little bit more because this sounds interesting. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, I'll be right back, guys. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I'm not surprised about proxy chains glucked because it doesn't. Proxy chains goes over SOX, right? SOX doesn't support ICMP. There's some ways you can get it to support UDP, but really it's only for TCP. Blocked. Let's let the ads finish because this is good information. I want all the folks in the chat to be able to see it, and I'll tell you why. Here, just a second. Let me pull up the iPad here. So we do this to proxy chains. Option in this to tell it to stop doing that. Nope, that didn't do it. Rude. All right, cool. So the ads are done. Perfect. So, Block, so you were mentioning that you're working on this and pings and nmap are not working when you're trying to send them over proxy chains, right? Yeah, okay. So the reason for this is twofold. One, it's actually it's a symptom of the same problem, but it's from two different perspectives. The first one is, remember, pings are using ICMP. And SOX proxies don't support ICMP over here. They typically only support TCP. Elizabeth, thanks for coming online. Welcome. Now, the other thing with nmap by default will do a send scan. So you gotta remember, for your three-way TCP handshake, all it's gonna do is it's gonna send a synchronized packet, and it's gonna look for a synchronized acknowledgement response. If it gets that, it then sets a reset packet and never completes the handshake. So this method right here won't work for that. So instead, what you need to do is you gotta divert this with TAC lowercase s, capital T. So this is gonna do a full connect scan. There's also something else you need to do, which is you need to throw in TAC capital P little n. This says no host enum. Because by default, this is what I talked about in understanding the tooling. Okay, cool. So you use TAC PN, perfect. Ended up moving nmap via SCP also. Yeah, this is what was causing it right here, the TAC ST. Because what happens here, let's say you've got your client and you're trying to do an nmap scan. And so you're going over your SOX proxy here. And then you're trying to hit a server. What happens here is that the client initiates a three-way handshake to the SOX proxy, and then the SOX proxy then initiates a three-way handshake to the server. So if you do a send scan, this first section here never completes. And so this it never makes an actual connection to the server. Yeah, so that's why your nmap scans are failing. So that's what I said. That's why I was saying try something like crackmap exec or the newer, bigger, badder NXC, which is the spiritual successor to crackmap exec because it's no longer being maintained. So I've started using NXC more. Occasionally I'll fall back to CME whenever I just want to get some validation on something. But this will always try to do the full connect. That's why it will work. So you could do something like NXC SMB, and then put in the IP address. And then you'd be able to go see what's running, like anything that's running SMB, and you put in that IP address. NXE has added role-based constraint delegation and S4U stuff recently. Ooh, has it? Nice. Another reason why Forward I wanted to set up the home lab was to be able to test that stuff out. As much as I really loved the RTO lab, it was kind of, I wanted to be able to go test out different tools in there. So I'm really excited to get the newer, bigger, badder home lab set up. Yeah, I do like NXE. What was funny is I had the guys who on that are the developers for NXE ask me why I wanted to run it in a Docker container. I was like, dude, I run everything I can in my custom tools, or the tools that I want to run. I have them run in Docker containers from customized scripts that handle basically making everything nice and neat for me. And then they were like, well, why don't you just use Exegol, which is an entire pen testing Docker container system, which is cool. I was like, I don't really need all that functionality of Exegol. Exegol is a bit overkill. Do I need to use dynamic chain? I'm getting a socket timeout error. No, you shouldn't. Now, did you redo your SSH connection? So you'd have to disconnect your SSH connection and make sure you put in this TACD 9050 or whatever the port is. Make sure your Etsy proxy chains config is pointing to that correct port. And it should be, I think, SOCKS 4, if I remember offhand correctly. Yeah. And so which tools give you the socket timeout error? Oh, it does have a firewall? Okay. Let me think about something here. Nothing seems to be going through proxy chains. Tried Legolo. Legolo looks cool. I've never messed with it. Yeah, it looks really neat. I never really had a need for it, but it looks really awesome. Think about other stuff you could potentially try for this. By the way, for everybody who is new on tonight, so Glocked is getting to beta test a lab, CTF lab, kind of. And so we're kind of giving him ideas on things he could test in it. Apparently, it's a pretty hard one. So. Yeah, Ford, that's what I was thinking. Like, I wonder if there's a firewall on the web server that might be blocking it. Yeah, because typically, if, that should be a pretty straightforward connection there. It's falling out. I'm trying to think what else you could try with that. So that 10.2.2.255. Are you sure it's 10.2.2.255? What's the subnet mask for that second? So do an IF config. Try this. Do a like an IF config or an IP ADDR. And what's the subnet mask for that second NIC that's connected to the domain? Because if it's a /24, then it can't be .255. Well, that's what I'm saying, though. what you're showing is... What you're showing here, though, is that you're telling me that it's trying to connect to 10, 2.255? Oh, 10, okay, well, that's not going to change what I was going to say, but for completeness, let's put it here. Because you gotta remember, this is a /24. That's the broadcast address. Right here. Oh, Tech, this is my iPad. And what I've got it set up is a program to mirror the iPad. I just use a drawing program. Hello, mateys. Yeah. So look, I'll show you here real quick. That's my iPad right there. Camera out of whack. Salty!
Caution. A virus has been detected.
Salty Demon 86 virus detected in the network.
Hold on, how does this work? You see. I got a thing that pops up that says Salty wants to collaborate. I'm always up to collaborate with Salty, my brother. Hey, Deb. Got a Salty raid. Hey, Wall, what's up, dude? So, mateys, yes, you're correct. 255 should be the broadcast address. And then 10.10.10.0 would be what's called the network address. And so those are not usable by hosts on the network. Hey, boo-boo. Yeah, so Glocked, I think you've got the wrong domain controller IP here. One thing you could do is do a ARP TAC A and dump the ARP table from the web server and see if it's been talking to the domain controller, like if it's seen broadcast for it. And then you can be able to get like different IP addresses that would be live on that adjacent link. Salty, what were y'all playing, dude? Every time I scan this thing, it's something new. Yeah. Golf with friends. Oh yeah, I saw you talking about that. It looked like a fun game. It's so funny. My oldest nephew, who's getting married next year, I remember him being a little guy, Agent Zero's age and younger. And I remember him like having his little child golf set. Oh my god, he was so damn cute. Such a cute kid. So one other thing you could also do, Blocked, is you could use NXC actually to go enumerate this. Chances are they probably didn't firewall off 445. So you got a good chance of finding what's on that other network. If you do something like wait, hold on. We gotta download here. 225. That's very different. You sent me 255. Okay, cool. So it's got 53, 88, perfect. So DNS, Kerberos, MSRPC, LDAP, and I don't see 445 listed in there, but it's probably got it. All right, cool. So now what I want you to do is go run NXC or CME, either one. Run those over proxy chains. I just realized you can't see it because my thing. Oh, no, there it is. Thought my fat head was in the way. Do that and then put in 10, 10, 10. God, I can't write. 225. SMB in there too. I'm a noob. I'm learning Kali Linux for fun so far. Dude, that's great. Everybody's got to start somewhere, man. Dude, Orthodox, the way I learned Linux is I didn't start with Kali, but I started with like Ubuntu. Because I actually didn't start learning Linux until maybe 2010. I went to a local 2600 meetup.
Caution. A virus has been detected.
Dude, we're just getting raided by everybody tonight.
DJ underscore Chateau virus detected
Hey
in the
DJ, what's
network.
up, dude? Cookie Monster defense. It's not my birthday, Agent. Unless you mean for DJ. DJ, is it your birthday? Go DJ, it's your birthday. Hack the planet. Hey Goblin, what's up, man? It's not my birthday. You guys are not even in the correct quarter of the year. Stop making me older. If I had freaking had $1 for every time someone's like, here, have a birthday, I'd have probably $5. Is it a curb roasting CTF y'all are working on? No, it's like he's so Glocked is beta testing a CTF lab, so something like the Hack the Box lab, right? And we're helping him, give him ideas on stuff he can test on it. Just did a box with Heartbleed. Really? Heartbleed was such an interesting idea, but I never got anything useful from it when I did it like in a live test. Yeah. Oh, Orthodox. So what I was telling you was, I didn't actually start learning about Linux until 2010. I went to one of the local 2600 meetups, and the guys were like razzing on me that I didn't know Linux. I'm like, all right, fine. So I started with Ubuntu, and I installed it on an old laptop. And the way I learned about Linux was I just kept trying to do stuff, and I kept breaking it and having to reinstall it. I just kind of went through that cycle, and slowly I learned fewer and fewer ways to break it. Yeah, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know what Heartbleed is, Heartbleed exploit. For one, you know it's super, super serial because it's a themed exploit. Basically, what it did is it abused I think it was the heartbeat functionality of SSL or TLS encryption schemes, and you could overread on the buffer, and you could start reading memory from the system. Allows anyone on the internet to read memory of the system protected by the vulnerable version of OpenSSL. And so sometimes you could get really interesting things out of there. And so this is a very cool exploit. In practicality, though, on any time I found it on a penetration test, I never got anything useful out of it. Yeah. Ever see the meme of Captain America aging? Yeah, it was a really interesting. It essentially was like a buffer overread, or what's the correct term? It was a buffer error where you could read memory outside of the expected bounds. I think the thing was you could tell it in the heartbeat to read a section larger than it should, and it would start grabbing memory. So I looked at the years, the year it was found, and I felt myself getting gray hairs. Oh, dude. What's funny is, like, I never really had a lot of gray up here. Because I started shaving my head about a year ago. It's after last DEF CON. But now, like, in the stubble, I can see the gray. I'm like, oh, cool, I cut it all off just in time. Now I just have the cool gray in the beard. Makes me look distinguished. You were in high school when that came out? Fucking young pups. I'll tell you all a funny story. My one of the viewers was, God, it's funny. So my wife, when I was 30 when we got married. We just had our 10th anniversary. And she decided to go back to get her master's in forensics. She had a degree in clinical sciences, working like in a hospital lab. She decided to go back and get her master's for that. So I'm a couple years older than her, but still she's well past like the normal college going age, right? So she goes onto the campus and she sees all these people and she's like, oh my God, they're all just a bunch of babies. Thanks, Gobble. Speaking of Descom, once a malware, the password is infected. No kidding. What's funny is it's such a common password that a lot of EDRs will now scan for, like if they come across a zip file that's password protected, they'll try a couple of like well-known passwords, infected being one of them. So I feel getting faster with the employees always look like babies, right? Well, I mean, they're supposed to. That's what it was originally intended for. That's not supposed to be a career. That's supposed to be something to get your career going. So you can learn a little bit of, you know, work ethic. Anyway, I'm not gonna go down that. What leaks in practice? We tested some of our own services from the attacker's perspective. We attacked ourselves from the outside without leaving a trace, without using any privileged information or credentials. We were able to steal. We were able to steal from ourselves the secret used for our X509 certificates, usernames and passwords. Nice. I have the archive of VX Underground from the Data Duke Village, so 8 terabytes of stuff. Dang. Actually, I was just thinking. So I think I started streaming in February. I've been recording streams since March. I currently have approaching 700 gigs of video. So I was just thinking, it's like, I could go offload that to my NAS, but even that's going to start taking up a large chunk of my NAS. So I'm wondering if I'm going to need to start offloading some of that to maybe cold storage. I don't know yet. There's actually some data processing I want to do in those videos, though. Yeah, you have more malware than your videos. No, I have a ton of storage on my NAS. My NAS was a compilation of 10 terabyte Rust drives, right? And so I've got 5 of them in what is roughly a RAID 5. And so I've got 40 terabytes of usable space on there. I do send it to YouTube for storage, but YouTube is not persistent storage because they'll just go nuke your channel sometimes. Right. Hey Glocked, were you able to find anything with NXC or CrackMap? I'm dying to know now. Let me write the actual command instead of this half-ass thing I had going on here. It'd be something like CME SMB, like that. It's just someone else's computer. Exactly. It's funny is I remember going to a Cisco users group meetup here in Dallas, and this guy was telling about this really cool setup. Oh, Goblin's trying to fish people. Oh, you're listing up the Twitch tracker? Yeah, we can look at that real quick though. Look, here's that is when I created it, but that's not when I started streaming. He just dropped a link, DJ, and so Nightbot squashed it. And the message I configured is no fishing allowed. But yeah, like if we look at some of the statistics here. Yeah, so maybe I started streaming in March. I thought it was in February. Yeah, I created the account well before I started streaming. Let's see, where are some of the more detailed statistics? Here we go. Yeah, so the first registered stream was March 19th, which I think lines up with my archive. No, that must have been before I integrated it over to Twitch Tracker, because I actually have recordings starting from March 14th. And then there was a gap till March 20th because I forgot to keep turning on the recording. Damn, look at that. That's cool. Hours watched, 5.4 thousand. That's neat. You can tell when I went on vacation. Right there. Just bang. Yeah, this is a really neat site for data management. I actually joined it in because just for transparency for folks they want to see, and so I have it. It has API authentication to Twitch for me, so it keeps track of like all sorts of neat stuff. One note away from being Zelda's Lullaby. Yeah, this actually is the this is the Heartbound original soundtrack here. You know what? Let me copy that because it didn't send it over to YouTube like it's supposed to. But yeah, so that's from the video game that if you ever see Pirate Software stream, that's what he. This is from the music from his game, from Heartbound, and he's really cool. So, he's like, hey, if you, I don't think you even needed to buy it, but I bought the soundtrack on Steam. It was $5, and he said, yeah, you can use it on streams, background music for videos, whatnot. Which, if you think about it, is probably brilliant advertising for them. Because it's like, hey, where did that come from? Oh, it came from this really cool game. People go look it up. Then they've got at least a chance to be aware of it and potentially go buy it. Oh, let's go check in on Ludus and see what it's doing. What is this thing doing? Let me look at something real quick here. Ludus range config get. I'm an idiot. I've been sitting here wondering why the hell the domain configuration wasn't coming in. It's because... You know what? I at one point wished I had a superpower that when somebody did something stupid around me, it would inflict pain upon them. I now see it's a blessing that I don't have that superpower, because I probably would have just 86'd myself right there for my own stupidity. All the Ansible roles aren't in here. We didn't load up the damn config. I prefer to 69 myself. Yes. Oh, God. All right, so Ludus range config set the new YAML. Dude, can't believe I'm sitting here wondering like why the hell. There we go. Now there's our domain configuration stuff. Jeez. Freaking smooth brain strikes again. All right. Well, I'm just gonna run a full deploy because all those damn things need to get running. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to do that. Oh, that hurt. That hurt right here. I'm sitting here, I've run that thing twice. I'm like, why is the domain not deploying? So for all my new folks that just came in, let me pull this up. This is the rough outline of the lab that we're building. This is what it's going to look like. It's a vulnerable Active Directory lab. It's just going to have a bunch of misconfigured AD and Windows stuff in here. So down here, this is the DMZ. This is going to be like the initial access point. There's a vulnerable web server. You compromise that. This is its own domain. Each of these squares is their own domain. They have various trust relationships. So the DMZ is going to trust the corp domain. Corp is going to trust the main domain, which I codenamed HQ here, but we actually changed it to babybottles.inc. That's going to be the domain name. So the company you're hacking is Baby Bottles Inc. Why? Because everybody likes to hack Evil Corp. I'm like, too bad, you get to hack Baby Bottles. So now, what should happen here is each of these should be set up here. I was trying to figure out why the DC in this domain wasn't getting its domain controller configuration. Now, why? Because I'm a smooth brain. That's why. So this is probably going to take a while. So it's probably not going to finish before the stream does. I'm going to go order some more RAM. We'll get the server upgraded, and then we'll be able to at least go tinker with some of the development stuff, like setting up, like doing more stuff with Mythic and whatnot. Yeah, Ludus is completely open source. If you want to go check it out, it's ludus.cloud, but yeah, if you want to go check it out, here's the actual repository for it. Mateys, you're right. It usually does happen that it goes back to something simple that you might have overlooked. And so the reason why I thought it was in there, because I ran that last night. We built out the new config, put all the domain stuff in here, let it do its thing, and then I pushed it. So I'm deving this on my host machine, pushed it up to GitHub, pulled it down to the other machine, but I forgot to update the config in Ludus. So we had the config on the server, but not imported into the server. Yeah, it's an open source system, and it's really cool. I enjoy the crap out of it. So one thing we had to do was we had to hack together an Ansible role here, this Ludus foreign domain, so that way these two domains down here. So the whole thing is run on Proxmox. It's super cool. So essentially you install a very bare bones Debian 12. All you need is SSH access. You download the Ludus server installer, run it. It sets up, installs, and configures Proxmox, and then sets it up everything you need for it. And then boom, you're basically good to go. The documentation for getting up and running is very good. There are some missing things in the documentation. I bring that up to the guys whenever I think about it in the Discord. It is so good, mateys, for labbing out stuff. And by the way, if you want to go check it out, go check out... That's not it. Did I put a GitHub command in here? GitHub? I did not. Dang it, I need to put that in here. But... GitHub... What is this? Hang on, because I spelled it. Here it is. Just grab it this way. There we go. So that is... that's the repo for the Ludus ranges that we're developing. So there's a very basic one for James Forshaw's book, Windows Internals with PowerShell, the Active Directory stuff from the appendix. And then this is our next one that we're building, which is Baby Bottles. And so that's the one we're currently working on here in the lab. And so the reason I needed all this, that custom Ansible role, is for this. We've got roles set up where Ludus has built-in roles to build a domain, like an Active Directory domain. However, it doesn't really have one to build secondary domains that form like a trust relationship or like a child relationship. So some really smart dude went and made one. And so we can have D2 be a child domain to D3. And then we can also use that role to have D1 be a child domain to D2. But we needed these standalone ones here to form their own thing. So this one worked and this one worked. Basically, we're testing out to make sure that these child domains and this primary domain relationship all work. And then the last thing we'll need to do to get the very basic core of the Active Directory up is go form these trust relationships here. So the DMZ needs to trust the corp, and the skunkworks, where the crown jewels are that we're trying to get to, that needs to trust the R&D system. And what's funny is you look at this, you think, well, the trust is going the same way for the two of these, but it's not, because your perspective is going to change. You're coming from D4 to D2, so you're traversing a one-way outbound trust. But then once you follow the attack path, you're going to end up over here in D1. D1 to go to D5 has an inbound trust. D1. So you have different trust relationships you're going to be exploiting. Can't wait. It's going to be cute.
It's gonna be super sweet. It's gonna be so sweet, you guys.
Yes, I did import the config. Good. Let's see. So there was some other stuff right here. So while that's been cooking in the background, if you haven't seen the blog from Bad Sector Labs, also the guys that make Ludus, they put out a weekly blog post called Last Week in Security. It's really great reading. I highly recommend. You should put that on your reading list like for every week. Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be a big old AD playground. Now, there's something I'm working on for it off stream, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet, and I got to go do some research, but there's going to be a story actually embedded in the lab. And so as you go through and you work your way through the lab and you hit different machines, you're going to get little fragments of the story. And then once you get to the file server at the end and you get those documents, then it's going to like all come together and like, oh, what the twist. Very M. Night Shyamalan-like. Let's see. So this was the last one we looked at. Double agents exploiting pass-through Azure AD, or Intra as they call it now. This is by Simulate? Yeah. I close you. I don't want to talk to you. Go away. Let's see what they're talking about here. So by manipulating the credential validation process, attackers can bypass security checks, posing significant risk to hybrid identity infrastructures. The vulnerability effectively turns the PTA, what is the PTA? The pass-through authentication agent, into a double agent, allowing attackers to log in as any synced AD user without knowing their actual password. So this could potentially grant access to a global admin user. Nice. Global admin in Azure land is like domain admin in Active Directory. So regardless of their original... Wait, hold on. I missed my spot here. Even if such a privilege is worse. Okay. So regardless of their original synced AD domain and potentially move laterally to different on-premises domains, additionally, attackers could log in as a synced AD user with high privileges inside the tenant, leading to privilege escalation. Alright, so what is this pass-through authentication? So pass-through authentication allows your users to sign in to both on-prem and cloud-based applications using the same password. So the feature allows your users a better user experience, one less password to remember, and reduces help desk cost. So when users are sign in using their Microsoft Entra ID, formerly Azure AD, this feature validates the user's passwords directly against your on-prem Active Directory. Interesting. So user tries to access an app. Users redirected to Azure AD for sign-on. Yeah. So actually, this was something else, mateys, I was looking forward to doing in the future. I was able to get connected to a fellow who's super knowledgeable on cloud exploits and cloud systems. But eventually, what I'd like to do is once this lab is up and running, I want to make an extension to it where Corp will have a connection to like an Azure AD dev tenant. And then there would be some vulnerable Azure AD stuff where a user could pivot from the cloud down into D3 and then complete the attack chain. So rather than going from D4 to D2 to D3, the initial access point would be something up in Azure. and then they'd be able to hop through the rest of the exploit chain. I thought that would be really fun to do. Especially since a lot of companies, as they're migrating, I'd say probably up from the penetration tests I've done, I've seen about, I'm going to say as many as 80% of them have hybrid Office 360, they have a hybrid Azure environment, right? They've got Azure AD or Entra, and they've got on-prem. There's been only maybe a handful that I've seen that were 100% pure Entra and Azure-based cloud. They had no on-prem. So that poses a little bit different scenario. But this one I hear is talking about if they're in a hybrid scenario here. So they try to access an app. The user gets redirected to Azure AD for sign-on. User enters their username and password. Username and the encrypted password are placed on a queue. On-premise, the on-prem agent picks up the request from the queue. Agent decrypts the password using its private key. Interesting. And then agent validates the username and password against Active Directory. Active Directory returns results to the agent, and then the agent returns the response to Azure AD. Then once that's done, Azure AD completes the sign-in process, and if successful, the user gets access to the app. Okay. So the pass-through agent sounds like it's running not necessarily on AD, but it's running on some server in there. Let's see. So the diagram above visualizes the authentication process. We already kind of went through that. So how we discovered the vulnerability. Doing some research by exploring the internet for known techniques that abuse Azure environments. So during research, came across Adam Chester's blog. Adam Chester is another super smart guy, XPN. This is blog from 2019. Damn. So we delved into the Azure AD pass-through authentication process and started decompiling the PTA agent using DNSpy. Discovered some strange things. When we logged in as a synced user, it would randomly give us a wrong password error, and then after a few tries, it would log us in using the same password. Wait, what? So we discovered something strange. When we logged in as a synced user, it would randomly give us a wrong password error, and then after a few tries, it would log us in using the same password. So initially we thought the browser agent might be affecting the destination request. However, we later realized it was just a poor user experience, meaning Azure synced user would randomly succeed in logging in with the same password. Weird. But it sounds almost like network latency if I had to really think about it. So what we found was that behind the scenes, our login requests were being randomly retrieved by the PTA agent in the environment. If the request was retrieved by an incorrect PTA agent, so an agent from a different synced domain, the login attempt would fail because the PTA agent forwarded the request to the AD server and it didn't recognize the user. So what they're saying here is that they have multiple, if a company has multiple Active Directory, like Forest set up, right? Then they're going to have a PTA agent all pulling from the same queue up here. That's not smart. So here's the issue. So when a synced user attempts to sign into Azure, the password validation is placed on the service bus queue and retrieved by one of the available PTAs. So regardless of the user's origin domain. So if a PTA agent retrieves the username and password of a user from a different domain, it's going to attempt to validate the credentials against its own Windows AD server, and that results in a failure because it doesn't know who that user is. Let's see. So the return value from the validate credentials function is false due to the user login function failing. So as you can see from figure 6, the login attempt failed even though the password is correct, which leads to a poor user experience. Yeah. So with the approach in mind, we provided the potential for bypassing AAD authentication. So first we inject an unmanaged DLL into the PTA agent process. The DLL utilizes existing CLR. The load is a managed DLL, so once the managed DLL is loaded, it hooks the validate credential function both at the beginning and the end, allowing us to control the return value of the function. So by controlling the return value, we can always return true. That means that even if we provide the credentials from a user from a different domain, the hook's going to return true. All right. So thus, we should be able to log in as any user from any synced on-prem AD. So the result would look like this. So they attempt to log in, they forward the login request to the cloud, they fetch creds from the queue, inject unmanaged DLL, load it, hook the validation credential function, try to validate credentials, can't validate, hook returns true, success, result login, display the login result. I'm missing something here. I'm trying to figure out where the link is here where we're just able to log in. So at this point, we're familiar with hooking native API codes. However, hooking a function inside managed code was less familiar to us. We started doing this. Install hook function. Let's check out this video he's got here. Let's look at this real quick. I can bring this up. Open. Put on YouTube. Won't let me. Why won't you? What are you doing? Can you please just... Windows, can you please just stop sucking? For 5 minutes. There we go. All right, so let's see what he's doing here. So he is a process hacker. He's going to inject a DLL. He's going to put in his hooked DLL. So successfully injected, wait for the function. So he's logging into Azure with a fake password, just ASD. Don't remember me. Okay, so actually he logged in and hold on, what did that show there? So username was ELAD, password is ASD. Result set to true. No way. So he's logging in his ELAD again. You can log in with the same user but with different credentials. QWERTY. Oh, that's badass. That's so bad. Oh my god. Please tell me they have fixed this. Microsoft recommends treating the Intra-Connect server as a Tier 0 component. So according to them, the Microsoft Intra-Connect server must be treated as a Tier 0 component as documented in the Active Directory Administrative Tier Model. We recommend hardening the Intra-Connect server. That's funny. God, that's funny. Oh, I'm gonna go drop that over the... That's really good. I'm gonna put that into... Just drop that over in the Red Team Tactics channel. Dude, that's wicked. This is something I've been wanting to learn a ton more about. How these flows actually work, like on a deep technical level. There's actually a really cool training one of my guys at my company did. Cloudbreach.io, I think. As there are more and more layers of extraction, more and more things are available to exploit, right? Let's see if this loads up here. I think I'm gonna need to get a keyboard tray because I just keep banging on this one. It's not working. Oh, thanks, mateys. This is a soundtrack from the Heartbound game. There it goes. Now it's coming up. It's the same thing I just typed in. Yeah, this was a cool training. He actually really liked this. And I believe they also have AWS too. Yeah. I just need to go cycle all my network gear. Either that or go yell at my internet provider. Let's see. Why is it not loading up? Yeah, it's a pretty fun lab too. He really enjoyed it. Offensive Azure Security Professional. What's the price on here? So it's $500 for 30 days of lab access with one exam attempt. 60 days of lab access, $700. $1,000 for 60 days. Lifetime access. All these give you lifetime access to the course material. You get an Azure PDF training guide, 2 exam attempts, a standalone challenge, priority support. Interesting. No, that's not too bad, especially not whenever you... That's not good, though. I think their site's having a little bit of trouble. But, no, especially when you consider how much something like stuff from Offset costs. Now, really, if you are good at this, though, there's one that I want to do from Taggart here. I think it's from Taggart. No, it's from Pwnlab. The Thunderdome. This is one that I've been wanting to do. I need to go talk to the guys over at Pwnlabs, though, just to make sure they're good with it. And it's going to be a ways off. Probably after I kind of get my fill of Ludus and I know how to use it really effectively. But Thunderdome is a giant multi-cloud cyber range. Simulates a real company, and it spans AWS, Azure, and GCP. Pretty legit. So I thought this would be a fun one to kind of go through also. I was prepared to see $1,400 with all these dang crazy prices. Yeah, I know, man. Let's see who else is up here. It's about time for me to close up shop for tonight. Oh, you know what? Rockg's on. Yeah, I think we'll go give him a raid out. So, hey, Glocked, if you're still here and you're just in focus mode, keep banging at it, man. But message me on Discord. Let me know how it's going. Because I'm vested now. I have an emotional investment to know how this thing is going. So, all right, folks. I think... I'll tell you what, let's check in on Ludus real quick before we go. Yeah, it's going to be churning and burning on this. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to put in the AD config. Damn. All right, we'll check on this tomorrow. Today was hump day. Tomorrow is the finishing crusher move. That's where you put your fatality on all the weakness for the week. Keep getting after it. And then remember, Friday, read-only Friday. That doesn't mean take it easy. That just means don't push to production. That means you're going to prepare for the next offensive on Monday. And then you can enjoy your weekend. So everyone, that's all I've got for tonight. Thanks everybody for stopping by. All the raids. My God, I think we had 5 people raid us. That was awesome. Lots of fun, lots of hacker shenanigans. For all my new folks, I do this every night from basically 8 to 11 p.m. Central Time, except Fridays. I gotta take Fridays off, otherwise my wife will murder me. She does demand some attention and affection. Not too much, but you know, a little. So, that's all I got for you guys. We're gonna raid out to Raiji. I hope you guys have a kick-ass night, have a kick-ass tomorrow, and then a kick-ass Friday, just in case I don't see you. But I just want y'all to know one thing. I love you. Peace.